Hey! Everybody get up! Everybody get up! Yeah, welcome to Anita Vita Rise. All right, everybody. Welcome. It's Anita Vita Rise. Anita Vita Rise. Yeah. Anita Vita Rise. Yeah. Anita Vita Rise. Yeah. Who can make it better? Anita Vita Rise. In all types of weather, Anita Vita Rise. Get you back together, Anita Vita Rise. Go send her a letter, Anita Vita Rise. Anita Vita Rise. Anita Vita Rise, yeah. Anita Vita Rise, yeah, yeah. Anita Vita Rise.
Welcome to Rise with Anita Vita. I am your host, Anita Vita, Master Medical Qigong teacher and healer. I'm so grateful and thankful that you are here with me today. As you know, this show aims to empower women and their stories so that they become a ripple effect of healing in this world. Today, I have a very special episode. I am introducing to you my first co-host. We are going to talk all the things about goddess energy, goddess vibes, divine feminine energy. What does that mean? What does that look like? And how can you apply it in your life? So please welcome back a former guest of mine and dear friend, Angela Aguirre, to the show, everybody.
Hi, this is so fun.
What's up, sister?
Hello, my fellow goddess.
Hello, my fellow goddess. How are you?
Hello.
How are you
today? I'm just so good. It's just fun to have a co-host. I was here as a guest, and to me, I feel like co-host is like, we're just going to chat it up. I get to direct some questions to you, and you're directing questions to me, and I love that form of engagement. Let's do this.
Yes, absolutely, sis. So, you know, the topic of the day is goddess energy. How did you come about that, come across it, and how did you even create those instances like in your life to activate goddess energy within you?
I honestly, I think in the last 6 years, I have used the word goddess among other words, which I'm sure we'll cover in our time together talking. I have used that word goddess more now in the last 6 years than ever in my life. I don't think I ever used the word goddess unless I was learning about like Roman goddesses or like Greek mythology or something back in school. The short answer is that it was activated in me in becoming a mother, and the threshold and the milestone to cross over and become a mother, and this deep reverence for my body and carrying a child and birthing a child and having a home birth and going through this like amazing transformative experience. And then motherhood in itself, my reverence for being a woman and the feminine and the healing properties and energies of the feminine have become top of mind, have become my insatiable desire to learn more and to put into practice, and also has become sustainable fuel for me to show up in a greater capacity, because motherhood does take a lot of my energy. I want to devote a lot of my time and attention to that, and to not meet people out of burnout or from a place of not feeling like my cup is full is practicing the goddess and like feminine energies and feminine practices, and being aware that instead of managing life, I need to provide for myself in order to meet life where it's at, instead of just, I got to get this done, got to do these to-do lists. So I've used that word goddess. I've read information. I've like digested all these like seminars and communities that I belong to and have created, that we are both part of. And it's just become something that I embody more naturally. I put my attention on more so, and it has become a natural evolution of me as a woman. So that's my answer. And I'd love to hear your experience with like goddess and like embracing that feminine aspect, because each of us, there's a different, you know, like reason why we might be aware of it, or an experience that kind of put our attention on it where we're like, oh, okay, I'm aware of that and I want to embody that and learn about that.
Yeah, well, thank you for sharing your perspective and how goddess energy was like activated in you and your personal story. And, you know, I'm grateful I get to be a part of that because I got to witness you in all those phases and
Yes, you
ranges
did.
in your life. And for me, to be honest, I didn't even really use goddess energy or that word even. Same as you, like I just learned it in school. And for some reason, for me, when I hear the word goddess, I'm just like, what is that? And I think because at the time, I only knew of like the woo-woo people who wear white and just walk around lackadaisical and just like, you know, manifesting or just being this angelic being, and then never really talk about the dark side of things to excavate.
Yes.
And the shadow work and what it takes to really live at that level. And I came about it when, you know, being so masculine and in my work as a nurse at the time and in the hospital setting, that's like probably one of the most masculine places like you could be at. I ended up having to I ended up just getting tired of the doing, that I was seeking out. There has to be something better and less rigorous, because I couldn't sustain the energy that I was already had, you know, for me to push through certain things. And I thought, and that was just, you know, that was just my upbringing. I was like, in my conditioning, I was like, I can push through anything. I don't care how much is left in my cup. I'll figure out a way.
Yep.
Yet the thing that ended up happening to me was I ended up always feeling depleted and having that burnout and just not really enjoying life to its fullest. So what I found that I needed to practice was understanding masculine energy and then feminine energy. And then the tools to activate that was actually through you. You invited me to Mama Gina's event, and I felt called to it first, right? I actually felt called. I was like, okay, it's got to be like, you know, I really want to be around these other women who's feeling all these things, but not even really vocalizing it, because we don't know how to, like, where do you share that in the workplace? It does not exist. You know, maybe once in a while with your sisters or your siblings, but even then, at least with me, I have like 2 sisters. And even then, though, I didn't have any actual tools to utilize. And so I was also seeking that out, because I couldn't just run on empty and be like just pushing, and then still I get ill, or still I'm not happy, or I'm not joyful. And yeah, and that's what I ended up having to do. So in me, and being invited to women's circles, that's where I receive energy and where I'm being poured into, that actually activates that spark for that divine feminine essence or goddess energy to light me up. And so this slide, right? This was at one of your events before the pandemic started.
Yeah, that was February 2020. So right before.
And that was so fun. And I've never experienced such intimacy in a group, you know, with a group of women who were like strangers. Granted, this has been more than, you know, this is more than your first. So this isn't your first circle. I've been coming to many, and I've created so many beautiful friendships. So it becomes like this reunion to see each other again, and also have the opportunity to meet new people and create new relationships and new friendships. So that was my experience. Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people can relate with that, especially in the workplace that you are in the nursing caretaking industry. And what I heard from you, even though I'm not a nurse, I feel that all women are nurturers and caretakers, and our essence we are very inclusive and want to, you know, always consider the whole, or make sure the integrative approach of the emotional wealth of or the emotional health of someone, the mental health of our loved ones in our circle, in our community. And so what I heard from you is like what I could relate to in becoming a new mom. And also the way that I love in relationships and in my life is, wow, I really pour into others and I leave the very last bit for me. Like, and you feel depleted, you feel burnt out, you erupt easily. It comes out sideways, like just like, you know, like irritability and being overly critical and not having that spark. And it was a nice parallel journey that we were both on with you attending the circles, which I've been doing for like 4 years now.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned Mama Gina. I just want to like share with the community that Mama Gina is her nickname and Regina Thomas-Schur is her name. She is a women's activist and teacher of the feminine. She wrote a book that I read and then told Anita about called Pussy, a Reclamation. And then she has for 20 years, which she just retired, for 20 years, she was teaching a course called the School of Womanly Arts in New York City for 3 months. And Anita and I went to New York for the intro weekend. And that's where we were introduced to some of her tools that she teaches. And when I say tools, I think like the simplest things, but yet they're so profound for women to remember to do for themselves. Like the art of receiving, to receive as generously as we give of our time, of our attention, of our words, of the actions that we do for others. When someone does that for you, receive it. Don't deflect, don't diminish, don't be demure, to receive it. And so like, that's like one tool. I'm sure we're going to cover a couple more. But yeah, for both of us to attend that weekend in New York, I feel was very nourishing and the start of being like, okay, I don't have to manage everything and cover all these bases. I need to make sure that I'm okay. And then from my overflow, I can pour into others and meet them from a place of joy and not depletion, not irritability and whatnot. Yeah. So we have, I'm sure so many in your community can relate to this feeling, especially during the times that we're living in right now.
You know, I really like that you said that we must receive as generously as we give, and to use, you know, to start with ourselves first. And I'm the first to say that I don't do that. You know, and I don't want to say, oh, it's because naturally I am a nurturer and naturally I can't help myself to support and to give. And the thing is, I can't support at the bandwidth and at the container and the expansion at the end, the depth at which I want to, without really starting with me first. And I know those who are in healthcare who are listening, or those who feel in the same position as me, to like, well, I don't even think about myself, because in this moment, I'm thinking about my patient. In this moment, I'm thinking about my child or my husband, wife, or other members in my family. Yet you're the primary nurturer. So it should start with you. And I get it. I know how difficult that is to receive. In fact, for me to train my subconscious mind in receiving is to follow my sentences. When somebody gives me a compliment or gives me a gift, it is to thank you, I receive. It's followed with thank you, I receive that. And if you notice, anybody who knows me, when you share something with me and I say thank you, I always say thank you, I receive that. And that took me, and I practiced that for 3 years. It's just been a part of my language now, and my verbiage and my word bank. So not only will me being the receiver receive the fullness of what was given to me, the person giving will also express the fullness of their joy. Because like, oh, Anita actually receives that because she said so, instead of like, thank you, and like, you know, go about your day or go about your next thing. And so that allowed me to even be more present with that person. And then the exchange actually happens in its fullness. And that's what's so beautiful when you practice these right? These
Subtle.
small, yeah,
Yes,
subtle
subtle,
shifts.
but
Yeah.
huge, profound effects. Because, like you said, it took you 3 years to start getting used to that.
Hmm.
Because we're so used to being like, oh, don't mention it, or it was nothing, or, you know, like diminishing it, deflecting. We do so much as women. Or, you know, oh, this old thing, you know, like you get a compliment about your lipstick or this dress, and you're like, oh, I got it on sale, or like, oh, I've had this for like 10 years. Like, why are we deflecting? Why are we diminishing a gift that someone is giving you? And so bringing it into language was only the first part. First, you had to energetically be like, I'm going to mindfully bring it to my conscious awareness now, receive when someone gives me attention, when someone gives me a compliment, when someone does something kind for me, instead of deflecting, diminishing, whatever it is, being like, thank you, I received that. So the language helped anchor it, but it was conscious decision, right? And it's hard. It's very hard. And so that's why it sounds so simple, but when you put it into practice, and I hope anyone listening that's like, let me try that. Try it today when you hear this podcast and when you see this recording, try just saying that out loud the next time someone does something kind for you or opens yeah.
I know you opened me up to this world of feminine tools when I went to New York City with you and Star. And you actually took the program
Mm-hmm.
and did you take it twice?
I did it 2 years
You
in a
did it
row. I loved
you
it
did
that
it 2 years
much.
in a row.
2 years
Okay.
in a row. Mm-hmm.
What would you say is because I know she's not doing it anymore right
Yeah.
now, right? She's not doing any live
Yeah.
trainings.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say is your greatest takeaway, and then a feminine tool that you still practice in your life right now, daily, if consistently, I should say?
It's so hard to limit and to say like which thing like has helped me the most. There are many things that I have learned and experienced. I'll share two, because one's about community and one's about a practice. The first simple practice, actually, let me start with community. The first is being in an auditorium with, the first year was 700 women. The last year she did before she retired this program. At one point there was 800 women. Being in community with that many women and doing the work, which you had mentioned earlier about the shadow work, which is to be with what's vulnerable, to be with what your insecurities are, to be with what your trauma has been, to be with what your pain has been, and to see women grieve and to hear women's stories and to honor their story and their growth and their evolution. We are so interconnected as women. Hands down, no matter what your political affiliate is, no matter what you think about, something that's happening in, our national or global events, how you raise your children, whatnot. Those are circumstantial, and we have our differences. That's fine. But at the core of who we are as women, we are so interconnected. And I think feeling that, witnessing that, and also being part of that, it has deepened my, again, reverence, respect for women in our community, and being an advocate for amplifying women's voices and making sure that we all remember, like, we need each other. We absolutely need each other. And we go about life alone most of the time. We resort more to blogs or books or external resources, but not each other. So that was a big takeaway. And I was already doing the women's soul circles at that time, which is building community. So it just amplified even more the advocacy and the importance of like continuing in my own way, building community that is meaningful and supportive, because we do need that, and reminding women how interconnected we are. So that's a big one. And then the tool that, and there's many, and we just talked about the art of receiving. I was reminded, and I think all of your listeners and anyone tuning in like will remember how much movement is healing. And to prioritize movement, AKA dance, or just movement, like getting outside and walking. But I'll highlight dance, that it's very therapeutic to move emotion through your body and not have this stagnant energy, whatever energy it is, from the highs of like being blissed out and getting that job promotion or falling in love to the lows of grief or sadness or despair, which all of us, I feel pretty safe to assume, have felt, especially with 2020 and even going into this year. So moving that through dance or through movement and just like being with yourself and carving out that time. And so specifically how that's looked for me is like, I made a playlist on Spotify called The Grief Ballet because in my despair and in my sadness of grief, in whatever reason it was brought upon, and there's been many with even loss, actual physical people like I've lost, it's also like brutal and beautiful at the same time. And I'm borrowing that from Glennon Doyle, the author and activist too. And so like, I will just carve out time where I'm alone and I just either dance or I just sob and I just move my body in a way that feels sad or feels heavy. I might crawl on the floor. I might move in like a ballet kind of contemporary dance way. It's not about the technique. It's more about moving and being with what is. And so the feminine is about being and inviting the authentic expression to move through us and to express that, especially with the heavy shadow work and things that are toxic or heavy, because if we're not addressing that and looking at that and moving that through, it is going to manifest into physical disease or, anxiety or some other condition. It will grow into something more. So those two things, deep, and it could go into so many things, but those I would say off top of mind and heart and what I really put into practice and believe in are the things that I learned and was reminded about from her program.
The moment I remember you when you jumped in and you were so excited to make this investment in yourself, and now look at how it has just the return on investment is limitless. Yes. And I relate to you when you share about allowing yourself to feel those feels, and however that looks like for you, whether that's through dance, through listening, even just listening to music and sobbing. I'm a huge sobber.
Yes.
Even if it takes like those, what do I call them? Those banshee cries.
You call it banshee? Okay.
Yeah, banshee.
I love that. By the way, I'm a quarter Irish. I'm a quarter Irish. So banshees are in Ireland. They're like ghosts, like wail. They wail in the night. So I love that. That just like put into context for me. Yes, and giving yourself permission, because if you think about to cry.
You're welcome. Just think about it. Yeah. And that's vibration in your body when you're crying and actually using your voice to vibrate. And I don't have a name, like a particular playlist. I think I just have the universe come and bring me something. But I do have like a list that triggers me to allow me to work on my feels. That's what I mean by that when I say trigger. It's like, I feel like I want something to come out that's really in the depths of my soul. And I'm like, give me a song what will take me there. Usually the ones that will take me are the ones from my wedding, like my wedding playlist. And especially like these meaningful music, to me, meaningful songs that will allow me to open up my heart more or to be with these particular feelings. And oftentimes I just really need a good cry. And what's beautiful is I share that with my partner. I share that with my husband. He'll see me go through my thing and then I'll let him know. And that's so important, ladies. Let them know that, oftentimes you just need to request them to hold space for you and not necessarily need advice. That could be like, can you just embrace me in this moment as I'm going through this? Listen, I'm on this cycle. I'm on this particular cycle in my, on my period. This is what I'm feeling right now. I'm extra tender. I need to move this through, because sometimes I'm not even working on my own stuff. It could be generational stuff too that I'm not aware of, and, getting a little bit meta here, yet, if you look up epigenetics, these are traumas that are passed on a cellular level to you from you know, your mom, your mom's mom, and beyond that, the ripple effect of that, you're now at a place to work on that so that your legacy is freed and you're in the
Yes.
lineage, right?
Yes.
And that is the
Yes.
work that when we come together as women, that's what we're doing, I believe, every moment, whether you're
Yes.
aware of it or not. And so when we take the responsibility and accountability to work on ourselves, I believe that the world is a better place. Everybody who gets in contact with you will start to notice, and then hopefully will also question, well, how am I being? How am I reacting to certain situations? What are ways for me to focus on my emotional awareness so that I am also free? I have the ability and the choice to free myself from these things.
Absolutely. Yeah. I love that you brought in lineage and being aware of our ancestors and honoring them. And I think it is a blessing and a duty of us in this present moment to honor and be with, create these tools to, and these practices to grieve, to envision, to tend to ourselves, because our ancestors were working their asses off before to provide for the next generation. It was much harder. And we owe it to them to look at the 7 generations before us, and then to look, and we owe it to the generations in front of us, especially with, you know, crisis like climate change and what they're going to inherit, like to look forward and envision how can I, the poet Rupi Kaur, who I love, she has a poem called Legacy. And I'm just paraphrasing, but she says, how can I make this mountain taller so that the generations after me can see farther? Like, how can I make it, you know? And I think I'm butchering it up, but I just love that there's an awareness of what can I do in my lifetime to pass the baton and to help the 7 generations before me or after me, so that they're not inheriting all of our mess, and that we can leave them better off than what we had. But we have to practice these tools and to be mindful of it, and then to honor our lineage is so important, again, because we're so interconnected as women, and we can definitely call on our grandmother energy and evoke that, evoke them in spirit, in meaningful inspiration, in prayer, whatever language fits for someone that's listening, but calling on them and honoring what they went through. And then also, how can I bring them into my life now and honor them? So beautiful.
So beautiful, sis. Thank you. And so just to recap how to activate these tools, it's the art of receiving, moving energy in your body, and embracing grief, right?
Yes.
Doing your grief shadow work. What are other ways that they call that? Shadow work, grief work, dark.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's the same. And then what would be a third tool that you would say that you could share?
I would expand on being with grief or being with the shadow work, because another tool that goes hand in hand with it is giving yourself approval to feel that. And by the way, I just realized that my room is getting darker because the sun's setting. But giving yourself approval to be with the grief, to be with tears. You had just mentioned a little bit ago that you will feel the feels and you'll sob, and you'll give yourself that time to do that. And even prioritizing it, like carving out a time, like I'm going to go for a drive. I'm going to sit in a parking lot and I'm going to cry because I need it. And instead of it being something that's reactive because something triggered you, it's prioritizing it and scheduling it out to honor it, you know, so it doesn't hit you blindsided, which we have all experienced, where something blindsides us because we've been running on empty for so long, and then something happens and we're like ripping off someone's head, literally, or, you know, crying at like a commercial. But honoring that, honoring, AKA being in approval that it is okay to be a deep feeler. It is okay to be too much, which I hate that word, And it's been like a cultural conditioning of like, don't be too much. Don't cry too much. Don't be too dramatic. Don't be, everything is too. But as women and as feelers and the feminine energy, being with that authentic expression might look like rage for 15 minutes. It might look like banshee crying, right?
Yeah.
Like with like sobbing and like ugly crying and maybe a scream, a primal scream. It might look like dancing your heart out because you're so blissed out and happy about something that is lighting you up. And it looks like too much, but that is what the feminine is that expression of energy, whether it's despair or like a lower frequency or a higher frequency. But approval of being with your authentic expression, I feel, is so important.
How does one know that you're giving yourself the approval and the permission to do it?
Well, you'll know because you're prioritizing it. You're carving out time to do that. And I understand that people work crazy, 40 plus hour work weeks. And that seems like the last thing that you can do. But going and before driving off somewhere, like sitting in your car and being like, what do I need from me? I need a deep breath. I need to feed myself. I mean, how many people, especially in healthcare, don't remember to eat because they put it off and they work through their lunch, like do a working lunch or working dinner. And the last thing they do after everyone else is fed or after their shift and after running 2 errands is like, oh my God, I'm so craggy, I need to eat. What about prioritizing? I need to nourish myself with actual food. So I think you'll know that you're doing it when you are carving it out and putting it on your schedule and being mindful of it in your day. It really takes, like you said earlier, with being mindful of when you needed something or to say, I received that. We have to bring it to our conscious level. So we have to be more aware of it, bring it to a conscious level to then put it in our the things that we will actually get done, where it becomes a healthy habit.
I'm glad you pointed those out. And, for everybody who's watching us and listening, know that we still continuously practice this. While we look so centered and we talk so casually about it, it is the work that, it's taken me about two years for just that first tool, and as well as 4 years now to really understand what feminine tools are and how to practice it in our life. And it's mindfulness around that too, because I'm also not perfect. And, we're women of progress, and that's all we can really ask for. So with that being said, it takes some effort. It takes a community. It takes your desire and willingness to work on yourself that will allow you to see the benefits, to see the results. Because I've been practicing these tools for a while, and there's times where I won't use all of them. You'll just know what lights you up. I would always start with what you're like, ooh, let's try that. Let's shift my language and see how that shifts my mindset, and then my then behavior, right? Because that's the formula for those of you who want to know a little bit more tangible ways and pinpoint efficiency to get things completed. And the benefits from this has been so amazing. My relationships with my family, with my friends, my friendships, they are so much more connected, or I will say, instead of connection, let's use depth. They're just, they have the depth of my relationships have grown exponentially.
Yes.
And even with you and �12𝙤𝙬, we've been, �12𝙤𝙬 is a mutual friend of ours who is co-creating some upcoming collaborations that we're doing together. We have committed to meeting each other and holding these spaces for us to allow and embrace the grieving process, whatever that looks like for us. So there will be celebration as well. There's times where we're like, listen, of the 90 minutes or 2 hours we're together, I will say at minimum an hour, we are just reflecting our emotions and processing with each other and holding space and just taking turns, depending on who it is that day. It could be all of us. Often, it could be all of us. And what I found was we all actually take turns, so that there's two people who's like, whoa, I can pour into you. What's going on? You know, we don't have to talk sales pages right now, you know, all the logistics, and just be with our emotions. And I value our community and our connection so much, because there isn't a lot of, actually, in my own experience, there isn't a group where we just do that and deep dive and allow for that time for each other. And so I'm so grateful and thankful, and really is for me, one of the inspirations for this topic, to really spread the message of feminine energy, divine feminine energy, goddess energy, to be unlocked in every woman's hands.
Yes.
So that
yes.
they too, you know, really own their power and activate that within themselves and see the benefits as well.
Yes. Yes. I appreciate our weekly calls that we have with �12𝙤𝙬, who is a manifesting coach and amazing light worker that lives in Hawaii. And I would like to ask you, what is it specifically that is something that has nourished you with having that consistent call and check-in? Because our format, like you had shared, isn't always about strategy and covering things, because we are co-creating an offering that's coming up in October, which we'll talk about at the end. And yet it's so simple. And I just want to hear from you, like, what is it about that specific yet not strategic practice on how we are with each other? You said holding space, that has nourished you.
I'll say the non-judgmental aspect. And there were times in the very beginning I would judge, like, I should show up with full makeup and, you know, not really share that I don't want to be here because it's so hard. You know, I'm having a hard week, but I committed, so I'm going to show up anyway. And that's the hardest time. Actually, it's the best time, when you need to show up when you're feeling really at your worst. And let go. And the practice was, let me let go of how they will even receive me. And then they just saw me as Anita, you know, without the hats, without, you know, not Anita the healer, Anita the nurse, the sister, you know, none of that. It's like, oh, this human being of ours, our sister, she wants support. And the power and the courage is asking for it. Yes. Because let me tell you, because it's easy to just turn that off and pretend like, no, I'm good. No, we don't have to, you can skip me. You can go with, let's talk about �12𝙤𝙬 and what Angela's going through. Like, you can skip me. And then what happens is it just festers within me. And then I'll take it out on whoever's around me, or, you know, I wouldn't be in a place to be able to create. I wouldn't be in a place to receive others from what they're going through, or I wouldn't even be able to do my work. And so in having that space to, like, really break down and be seen and be naked, because that's what it feels like sometimes. Yes. And allowing them to see you, yes, is profound and transformational. And it's even in that moment, and it's in those moments that that I know for myself brought me so much value in connecting with both of you. I don't have it with anybody else. And the thing is, we ended up creating it, right? And that's what happens when it's not offered by anyone else. We end up creating it, and we become the guinea pigs of all of our teachings. Yes. And it works. And I'm so grateful, and I'm so thankful for both of you. And now that we get to birth it and share it to the world, it just lights my heart up so much. Yes. You light up talking about it. I would share, I would actually love to summarize what you just said in like a
bulleted like gems because there's so many. And it's first letting yourself be seen in whatever it is your authentic expression at that moment. Because you said no makeup, I'm going to show up, I might be cranky that day, but allow approval, you letting yourself be seen, then us witnessing you where you're at and meeting you where you're at, not trying to fix, not trying to give advice, not trying to commiserate, like, oh, me too, I feel that way too. And that, you know, women were guilty of that, like misery loves company, and you can take that negative downward spin easy of hating on the world, hating on our flaws and what we're doing to fix it, and like, you know, complaining about our coworkers. It happens. So letting us be with where you're at, like meeting you where you're at, and then holding space is being with where you're at, and honoring you asking for what you need. Although sometimes you might even not know what you need, but just being seen in the growth or in the despair or in the confusion or in the funk is enough already. That's the feminine. The feminine energy does not have to fix and have this linear approach of like, oh my gosh, we have a problem, we need a result. Yes, let's honor the masculine. That is how the world works and we get things done. At the same time, there's a lack of balance. We need the feminine with, oh, there's a problem. What does that feel like? What can I do to help? How can I be with what is with you? I don't have to give you a solution. I just can be with you. And like you had mentioned about your husband, knowing that you're grieving or you're in a sob fest or you're very tender, like just being with what is. And then the last thing is like feeling that you're part of this connection, this deep, authentic connection that we say, continually use. Another word that I've used so much the last 6 years is sisterhood. This meaningful, supportive, sisterhood-like community where it feels like the support that you just gave me is like we are kin, that we are like spirit sisters, that we are interconnected as women, and that you don't have to do life alone, and you don't have to do life perfectly, and you don't have to do life, living by everyone else's shoulds and what should I do and how should I act and how should I behave and what career should I do. So that is freeing in itself. And then it feels like the sense of belonging. And the way you light up talking about our calls that we have every week, and also the Women's Soul Circle, like the community that I've helped create and like now has become this, like we all are collaborative and supportive in our endeavors and in these parallel growth journeys that include dips and valleys, right? It is so beautiful to have that sense of belonging and that sense of support because life is hard. It's hard. There's a lot of multiple crises that we're going through and then that's on a national, global, and then we have our own stresses in our home, our own personal health issues or stresses in how, finances, everything, you name it. So to have that sense of community and support and knowing that you don't have to have it all managed perfect and, boss babe energy, it's freeing. And that's a goddess. It's being free of like, this is me. This is my authentic expression and I roll with it. And I have sisters that support it. Yeah. And that feels really good. I think that's the spark. I know that's the spark that I have and that you exude. And that's what we want to show and model. I have a daughter. I want to model that for her and then bring into our community. Like, how can you get that spark back? How can you light that light that's within all of us and bring that to a roaring flame so that it's sustainable, it doesn't burn out? Yeah.
Well said, sis.
Well demonstrated in our relationship, in our sharing, this platform that you've created. Like this is sisterhood. This is goddess energy. It's like, I want to share these tools and these experiences so that women know that you're not alone and that we have support and we have tools and resources to help us. Yes.
Thank you for reflecting that with me and for holding that space and showing up every week wherever you are in your travels. You are, you're just such a joy in my life. And I'm so grateful that we get to now co-create together.
Yes.
And with that said, shall we share with everybody what we are creating and what we are
We
now
shall.
birthing
Yes, we
into the
shall.
world? Would you please do the honors?
Okay, I'll do the honors.
Yes,
So
please do
we
the honors.
are creating an online community with our fellow goddess, sister goddess, �12𝙤𝙖𝙩 Thomas Harris. We are creating an online community with us as the three coaches. And the community is for us to, the pillars of the foundation in this community is trust, divine feminine, and vision. And we will each month be offering coaching and resources and online support. And we really want to, I mean, we all envision just letting our circles overlap and grow and to reach more people. And we are finalizing that, and we'll have more details early October, right?
Yay!
It is exciting.
Yes. Of the 3 years that we've been creating this experience for just the three of us, we have now combined our superpowers and gifts to serve on a grander scale.
Yes.
And
it's time. It's time.
It's time. And we can only imagine to impact and transform how many more women's lives. And I'm so grateful and thankful to be able to do this work. So if you know of a woman who is seeking support, don't know where to go, you know, I'm always a huge advocate of being resourceful to reach out to us. We have started our Instagram account. I literally created today. And our handle is 𝙬𝙤𝙖𝙩 Sisterhood. That's SOULLUXESISTERHOOD. So reach out to us, leave comments here. You know, we'll get back to you if you have any like questions. And I'm so excited. And
yes,
we are
very
huge
exciting
advocates of in-person gatherings. So retreats are in the works and more workshops. And that always like lights all of us up. So you will definitely feel all the goddess diva vibes from all of us. And mark my word, when you leave from any of our offerings, you're going to feel so freaking amazing. You're just going to feel like you've gained either 3 sisters and more so. And in the community, you're going to be so supported. You're going to feel so loved, so seen, so heard that you are just going to stay lit up. And I'm so grateful and thankful when you decide to join our community.
Absolutely.
There'll be more to come in early October.
Yep, we're ready.
Yay.
And the luxe is so goddess. The luxury, yes, that it's soul luxe, because we have to bring the luxury in there too. And luxury is a state of mind and a mindset and an attitude, and prioritizing simple pleasures. It doesn't all have to be on this grand scale and over the top. Bringing it in and bringing it, because it can be grand scale and over the top.
Yeah.
Or in pleasure, like what's a way that you can create more luxury, more pleasure in the simple things, and prioritizing that more often, because we need that. If you're going to embody this goddess energy, these small practices, you are so worth it. That reminder of you are so worth it.
Absolutely. I agree in the simplicity of how you activate that within yourself. And for myself, it has always been like luxury bath experiences.
Yes.
And one of those experiences, while I received that in Bali on a women's retreat, to have just florals inside of, you know, in the bath, and then the scents, like lighting candles, essential oils, like there's so many things that you can do to really activate that within you. And one of the quickest ways too, if you don't have those things, is you have a sister, like a goddess sister, just be like, can you just speak truth into me right now? Just, can you tell me that I'm not going crazy? Just tell me that this launch is going to be amazing. Just tell me I'm going to live through the day. Even those simple words, like whether it's a text, a call, or a GIF, an emoji, something will literally like shift your perspective. And so I'm so excited, and I can't wait to just collaborate more so with you, sis. And I thank you so much for co-hosting this episode and on this topic, because it's so important. And I know you embody it as an embodiment coach. You live it, you teach it so well, and I can't wait for other women to get to experience your magic. So thank you for being here.
Thank you. I received that. Thank you. And my dear fellow goddess, Anita, I thank you for inviting me to be a guest. I thank you for using this platform to share your experience, to reach people in an authentic way. I thank you for the consistency that you deliver this beautiful offering out into the world. And I thank you for your authenticity, your vulnerability, your courage to shine your light, because you are modeling that for others, and you are creating a ripple effect, which is, I know, your mission statement. And I see you doing that in this world. And I'm honored to be on parallel paths with you.
Thank you, Angela. I received that.
Yes, girl.
I received that. Oh my goodness. Beautiful. So many good gems, guys. Watch the replay again and share it with your loved ones, because we can't do the work we do without you all sharing it in the world. So I appreciate you. I love you. And I'm so grateful we're back on our regular schedule. And as always, I root for your rise. We'll see you next week, everybody. Bye.
Anita Vita, rise.